So today we're going to take a look at our sandboxes for DeployHub. You can reach your sandbox from the dig in, and then you'll be assigned a number. This one we've been assigned number 1 at DeployHubPros.com. The login for DeployHub is going to be admin. So we'll have the user ID admin and the password admin. Now you'll notice our URL here is the dmadminweb/home. That is the location of where the web application is running from on this server. So let's go ahead and log in, and we'll see that we have under my pipeline in the development stage, I have my IT Guys version 3. So this application is made up of multiple components. We have our Postgres, which is going to be installed through Ansible, our Java component, our database component, our Tomcat, and our application. So this will be the version of the application that will be used as part of the Jenkins integration throughout this sandbox instructional video. So when we go ahead and deploy, we're going to actually deploy this to the integration, testing, and production environments. If we look at the integration environment, it is going to be made up of one server. This server will actually provision out to EC2 for you. If it's not running, it'll automatically get started up as part of the deployment process. These EC2 instances will go away after an hour. So after it's been once an hour, we'll go out and clean those up as part of our sandbox maintenance program. But what will happen is if you deploy again, everything will be fine because we'll recognize that the instance doesn't exist and that we need to re-provision it as part of that deployment process. So you'll see the IT Guys int1. If you're in a sandbox 2, it'd be IT Guys int2 as your sandbox. So there will be a corresponding AWS environment that will be provisioned as part of this deployment process. And there'll be the corresponding for testing. You'll see that we have test server, test1, and production will be prod1 in this case. So if we look at our application again, we're going to be deploying all of our components out to those environments, out to the AWS environment. On the first deployment, if their machine is not running and we did go and do the deployment, DeployHub will recognize that and go ahead and send out or deploy the Postgres and Java as part of the infrastructure layer. And that will be done through Ansible. From there, we'll actually make the database changes. We'll deploy Tomcat, and then once Tomcat's been deployed, we'll go ahead and deploy the WAR file into Tomcat. So that's kind of our setup here for our base application that we're going to be working with as part of the sandbox. If we look at the Jenkins side here, Jenkins will be right off of the root of your sandbox URL. So the digin1 DeployHubPros.com, and the user ID here again is admin. Get logged in here. And one of the things that we're going to do in the Jenkins side is that we're going to be working with this pipeline here. It'll be the IT Guys pipeline. It is going to actually come from this particular Jenkins file. So this project is set up to use this Jenkins file to move everything through the continuous delivery pipeline. So at this point, we can see that this is the where we're going to be getting our source for the pipeline. As part of our deployment process, we'll actually approve the application for integration. This is where we're doing our approval step. Then we're actually going to move the application from development to integration. And once that's been, the move's been completed, then we're going to do our deployment. And when we do the deployment through DeployHub here, we'll actually have the provisioning and all that handled by DeployHub if needed. We'll look for the logs. Once we get the logs back and the deployment has been completed, we'll run our test cases. These test cases will allow us to then move to the next stage of the pipeline. So once we're done with integration, now we're going to go move on to test. Test is going to happen the same way. We're going to have the same steps, our move, our deploy, and run our test cases. And then finally production, we're going to do a move and deploy. There's no test cases for production in this case. So this is a Jenkins file that we're going to be utilizing. And I'm actually just going to go into blue ocean mode here. So we'll go ahead and run that. So here is the start of our deployment. And again, you can view this. There's a little bit of a time lag from the Jenkins side because Jenkins is going to wait for all the logs to be produced before displaying inside of the Blue Ocean UI. If we go over to DeployHub though and go to our timeline, we can see the details of what's happening. So we could see that we had our IT guys moved from integration into integration from development, and then we did our deployment. So you can click here, get the deployment log in real time, what's happening. So in this case, we did our deployment, our provisioning, and we're installing Java at this point. Once Java's been installed, we'll go ahead and do the database updates and the WAR file deployment as part of that process. If we go ahead and click on the Applications tab, that'll refresh this tree view, and we can see that version 3 has moved from development into testing. And you'll see this as the deployment moves through the pipeline. That will get a one step going to the next step. So eventually version 3 will be in production after the deployment's done. If you want to redo this process, you can just go ahead and pick your version and move it back to development, and it'll basically restart the process if you want. Also, if you want to do a rollback, you can just right click on any of these, click on deploy the version that you want, pick the environment, and just hit OK, and it'll actually roll back that environment to the version that you selected. So you have this full capability of doing a new deployment through the deployment pipeline and being able to roll back as part of the sandbox. Once we do the deployment, you can find, like I said, the application itself will be running based on your sandbox number. So in this case, we're going to be looking at integration 1. And so our URL is going to be the IT guys -integration, and then your sandbox number, and then .dns. Here's the port number that this is running off of, and then just home. And that'll bring up the application. So no matter which version, you'll be able to see based on the version that you have deployed, this will change. So in version 3, we have the achievement column added. Version 1 is just first name, last name as part of the application. So you can play around with the different versions, rolling forward, rolling back through the DeployHub process. So that's just a quick highlight of the sandbox environment. If you have any questions, please contact me. You can reach me at steve.taylor@openmakesoftware.com.
Thank you for viewing our recorded demo. For more information, you can contact us at request-info@openmakesoftware.com, or you can visit us on the web at openmakesoftware.com.